Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our fireside chat. Now that we approached end of April, it's time to look back at what happened in the automotive industry. And today, I would like to start with news about Atlatec. Recently, to be precise, yesterday, we have released an article by my colleague Tom, who is also joining us on the call today. This article is about ADAS testing, and we have written it together with our partners Genesis, M Dynamics, and Kempton University. The article is already available online. I will attach the link to it in the video description. And Tom, you as an author, maybe you could share some thoughts on what it's about.
Yes, happy to, definitely. The article is a look back at a project that, together with the partners that you mentioned, we did for Porsche, the performance car brand. And the goal of this entire project is to develop new and more comprehensive testing processes for ADAS and AV features. In this case, it was focused on ADAS, specifically a lane keep assist, that are available for use on public roads and that can be used at scale, right? Up until now, there's been a lot of high precision testing that's only been available in very controlled environments, which naturally are small scale, such as proving grounds, which are super important, of course. But they're proving grounds, right? They're not public roads, and eventually that's where you want your ADAS feature to actually work and perform well. And that was one of the main things here. And for us here at Atlatec, the goal was to create reference data or ground truth data that you can then match the actual vehicle performance against. I think, Henning, you were, if I remember correctly, quite personally involved in this one. Don't know if you want to highlight some specifics.
Yes, I was involved in this. It was work we have done jointly with our partners over the last years, actually. So was a fairly long term and still is collaboration here. Yeah, and it's just really interesting to see what the gap is between what systems are being worked on in research and development, autonomous driving and the like, and the systems that actually make up a bulk of the high margin advanced driver systems in the market today, which feels like it's just engine stuff like lane keep assist, etc. But it is still a hot topic. I mean, interestingly enough, and key to this project was how can we put key performance indicators to the performance of an advanced driver assistance systems. And like you mentioned, we created ground truth reference data and then conducted test runs with certain vehicles on these areas that we have mapped out and compared what the sensors of the vehicle detect and how the controller in the vehicle, all serious production stuff, matches with what we have mapped beforehand. And with this, test engineers can really put numbers to the performance of the lane keep assist, and it's wildly interesting what happens, right? It's really interesting stuff.
Yeah, agreed. This was definitely a piece I enjoyed writing. Absolutely, yeah, absolutely worth exploring. And we hope the same is true for those who actually end up reading it, of course.
Yeah, thanks, Tom, for writing it and to invite everyone to read it. And if you have any questions, as usual, you can reach out to us on LinkedIn. Let's move on to the next topic, which is autonomous trucks. Volvo has announced that they have partnered up with Aurora to work on the autonomous truck in North America. Henning, have you heard anything about this partnership?
Yes, it was on the news. Somehow, it feels a bit like we have talked about similar things in one of our last chats when it came to, I think it was Daimler Trucks and Google. It feels a bit like this, right? So, and again, I think there is little risk in a truck maker to do such a step, right? I mean, they do gain experience with these systems early. They see how their customers react to it. They learn of what their customers will eventually pay for it. I mean, let's not forget about this, right? So trucking companies and also AV companies, need to make money eventually and a profit eventually. So these are all very important things. And at the same time, Volvo Trucks can still work on their own stack and eventually replace parts of it or all of it I mean, they have all the options in the world now, and I think it's a good move for us. And Aurora seems to be, well positioned here. They are on the news quite regularly, so they seem to be doing a pretty good job here.
Yeah, I think so too, and I absolutely agree. I would say it's the best of both worlds from the perspective of Volvo Trucks, right? You get a very quick access to a functioning system and to the market for it, which is, since this is logistics and freight, a market that already exists, right? It's nothing like robo taxis where you first have to invent a new service, right? This is working, and this is something where you can make revenue, and so you want to get in the game quickly, and then with all the learnings you take from that, like you said, you have open doors in order to explore building your own solutions and eventually insourcing something out of it.
Yeah, true.
But
true.
I think it's great, really, that all these traditional barriers, both between the automotive companies amongst each other and automotive and tech, and this is a car maker and this is an AV stack and this is whatever, is really breaking down, right? And everyone is working together with everyone, right? And Aurora is already working together with PACCAR, and so back in the day, nobody would have touched that company as another OEM. And I think it's great that these barriers have been broken down by now, I would say.
Yeah, totally agree.
The collaborative spirit.
Yeah. I think new problems require new type of collaborations, and this is what we see here. I just before I hand back over to you, Hannah, just one more thought on this. I mean, almost everybody, assumes that, hey, AV trucking, that's like the first thing. It's totally obvious to do this. There's a shortage of drivers, etc., etc. And we have heard all the reasons, but I've read somewhere and someone said that, hey, autonomous trucking, that's like the least thing that will ever work. And that person argued and said, a safety case around is just not, it's not possible, because you have a semi truck which weighs, I don't know, a couple dozen tons, right? And what if something fails, right? I mean, you can never, stop immediately like you could with a regular car. And I thought, interesting thought, right? So that the risk, if something happens, is just so much greater with a semi compared to everything else, that it's not going to work out. But well, we'll see what happens in the future. But I thought it was at least an interesting thought.
I mean, yeah, it is definitely an interesting thought, and you got to be careful not to slide into the how safe is safe enough discussion, right? But and sure, you're moving 40 metric tons of stuff at speeds of over 100 kilometers per hour, and the only thing separating you from other traffic participants and sometimes people, in many cases, is a white line on the ground, right?
Yes.
But then again, that's true for all of traffic, and I get the feeling that if you hear about tragic accidents involving semis, involving buses and whatever, the predominant or the dominant cause behind those tends to be drivers that fall asleep or some other form of human error, right? Because it's bordering on exploitive labor, what these people have to go through. So hopefully it will lead to safer traffic by that.
Even if I risk now to kind of break our time barrier here, final comment on this is also that I think once we see a wider deployment of autonomous systems, we will see fatalities in traffic caused by these vehicles, maybe even in some cases which could have been avoided by a human driver. The key thing is that we understand as a society that these cases are extremely rare, and that by and large, and in total and in sum, it still pays off and is hugely beneficial for society, which does not mean that no one gets killed, right? I do not think that will ever be the case, right? You just need to have enough vehicles using it, then it eventually will happen, right?
Yeah, agreed. I mean, if it's only acceptable to have something out there, if there is a 0% chance of anyone getting hurt or killed, then you have to shut down all traffic as it is today, right?
Yeah,
because people are getting killed every day with the solution that we now have.
I agree.
But again, this needs a separate 120-minute session for us to further explore. But let's try to stay within our scope for today. There was one more topic, I think, Hannah, that we wanted to touch upon.
Yes, true. And it's also about Volvo Cars. They have announced that they have opted to use Nvidia's Drive Orin AI computing platform. And Volvo Cars CTO believes that this technology will actually help to make the next generation cars much safer than they are right now. Tom, any comments on this?
Yeah, it's interesting because it's the one thing is Volvo Trucks partnering up with Aurora, and now back to back we have Volvo Cars partnering up with Nvidia, right? So it feels again very similar. Good to see that people are collaborating, and Nvidia has had a sensational year, right? They've had some really good news with new partners, as was announced during their GTC conference earlier. And this, of course, again, is a huge win. I think having a car brand like Volvo Cars choosing you as their primary system on a chip supplier, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And so presumably this is what they're going to be using on their road to level 4 operations on highways as well. So that's exciting, I think.
Yeah. I will just tell a 30 seconds anecdote on Nvidia, and that's it. So I think I'm trying to remember what year it was. Let's say 2011. Around this time, I was at the university. We were organizing the Intelligent Vehicle Symposium, a scientific conference. And the first time I met a person from Nvidia at such a conference, and I was like, "What are you guys doing here? Right? This is not a gaming conference, right?" It's like kind of, greening at them. It's like, yeah, okay, sure. I mean, we have good coffee, right? But make yourself at home. But now it's 10 years later and they are unstoppable, right? So it's amazing what they did.
It's crazy. From what we're seeing, it looks like they're really pushing hard to become the next Mobileye.
Agree.
So very interesting to see where there will be 5 years from now.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, we'll keep an eye on all the companies and share with you guys any news that come out. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Stay tuned for the upcoming video at the end of May and have a great time until then.
Thank you guys. See you next time.